right, welcome. We are live. We always like to start with a little music. It's always that silence when you're letting everyone come in. And we are big music lovers, so there's that. So that's what happens at Vogue Pro. Even when we're doing internal meetings or just overall culture, it's gonna involve music and specifically Hammer fans. So we are huge Hammer people. So I'm going to go ahead and switch off and start the PowerPoint for today. Stop my music. All right. Do you guys see the PowerPoint? You see the PowerPoint, Hope?
I can see it. I don't know if it's showing on you guys' end. Can y'all
Yeah,
see it?
I can see it. Um,
Okay.
go ahead and kick this off, Hope.
Yes, welcome everyone. I am so excited to be here with you on today. So we'll get right to it. We're talking about HR and culture trends. With so much going on in our world, in our economy, in our government, this is a perfect time to just kind of make sure that organizations are understanding what they need to be thinking about going forward for 2025. So I am Hope Malvo. I'm the CEO of VeauxProHR Professional Services. And our company honestly just focuses on intentional workplace culture solutions. We can do this for any size company, but for us, it's really about having a workforce where we're implementing human-centered workforce solutions that are going to bring about engagement, compassion, and compliance. And yes, all three of those can happen at the same time. So welcome. A quick overview of what we're going to go over is, of course, the HR and culture trends. We'll talk about really some of those top HR trends that are shaping 2025. So we're very early on in the year. There, again, has a lot been going on in the administration. So these are just the things we have as of February the 28th of 2025. We perhaps may have another one in the next 2 months because there's been some type of trend change and that we've noticed, but we're dedicated to educating you and making sure you know about it. From a workforce equity and strategies post DEI standpoint, we'll touch a little bit on that, and then we'll talk about the best practices for thriving workplace culture. So I also wanted to note, please put your notes in the comment. If there's in the comment as we go through this, it's very interactive. We'll have polls, and so we really encourage you to be interactive. Pause us. I can't see you guys, but Miracle can, so we'll be watching the chat to make sure that we're including you in this discussion, this conversation that we're having. So I'll kick it off to Miracle.
Hello, everyone. So, again, my name is Miracle Simeon, and I'm the COO of Vogue Professional Services. And like Hope mentioned, the workplace is evolving faster than ever, and HR is at the center of it all. In 2025, staying ahead means understanding key trends shaping how we attract, engage, and retain talent. So today we're going to cover these four major trends that are redefining the HR and workplace culture. But here's one trend that is gaining momentum. And let me know if you want to do a deeper dive in like what's going on. But it is the fact that how the older workers are becoming sought out talent. So we are seeing a dramatic shift, of course, with the birthing rates are declining and people are living longer and working longer. And so we are now experiencing that they are more valuable than ever. So by 2030, the 65 plus workforce is projected to grow by 45%, while younger age groups are shrinking. And so organizations that realize and leverage that this talent will have a competitive edge. So again, if you want to do a deeper dive on that trend, just let us know. And we want to talk about just that. But let's jump into the actual trends that we are seeing for 2025. Next slide. All right. So let's get real. Today's employees want more than just a paycheck. They want flexibility, they want the mental wellness, and they want their work to actually feel meaningful. And if your organization isn't evolving to meet these expectations, you're going to struggle to attract and retain top talent. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The way we hire, develop, and deploy talent is shifting just as fast. So the old approach, where we hire based on degrees and years of experience, is losing ground to skill-based hiring. So companies have spent the last 5 years throwing money at skill-based database, internal talent marketplace, make better use of their workplace. It sounds really, really good in theory, right? But guess what? Most of these efforts are not working. So here's why. Companies are still stuck in the job mindset instead of a project mindset. We build, and I've done it too. We built these like rigor and robust job descriptions and then wonder why internal mobility is slow. So here's something that is very true. Managers are actually hoarding top talent. So yes, you heard that right. 43% of organizations admit that managers hold on to high performers rather than encouraging them to explore internal opportunities. Internal job movement is harder than leaving altogether. So in fact, 39% of employees say it's easier to find a job outside of their company than within, and that's a huge problem. So what does this mean for leaders? Culture is the answer. Strategy and platform are secondary. So there's no amount of fancy software is that's going to fix a culture that doesn't support internal mobility. Before investing in these techs and like focusing on a culture mindset shift mentality. And so we need to break the job mentality, because here's the thing: consulting firms have been operating in a project based way for decades. And so this is a great opportunity in trends for companies to do that switch and actually separate themselves from companies that just aren't doing it. And so I want to go into number 2, which is a really good one. And we have to talk about the elephant in the room, which is AI and automation. If you haven't heard, or if you're not having these conversations in your leadership meeting yet, trust me, you are already behind. AI is no longer just a nice to have, it's actively reshaping how we recruit, manage performance, analyze workforce, looking at policies, looking at all these things. And let me tell you, there is a gap between companies that are leveraging AI and those who are hesitant in and it's getting wider and wider. So it's a game changer, and the numbers prove it. So based on the I4CP's 2025 Priorities and Predictions report, the companies pulling ahead are the ones using AI at scale, not just testing the water, but fully embedded in AI into their practices. The lagging organization, they're either dabbling in small pilots, they're either still doing research methods and testing, or believe it or not, actually resisting AI altogether. So guess what? The companies in the lead aren't just playing with the tech for the sake of it. They're seeing real business results. And our company can attest to that as well. There's higher revenue, stronger market positioning, and improved efforts across the board. So in fact, 91% of high early adapters report a direct positive return, cost savings, productivity gain, and increased customer satisfaction. 91%. And I always have to even remind myself, AI really got introduced into the public world 2 years ago. So it's time to get on the train. Now, I know some of you may be thinking, but Miracle, what about the bias? And what about the ethics of AI in decision making? And you are right to ask these questions. AI is not perfect. Like I said, it's only been around for 2 years, but we have to be intentional about how we design and implement it. And so we do risk, you're not going to automatically eliminate all biases. That's why HR is important in having a critical role into not just adopting AI, but shaping its responsibilities. So I did want to take some time to, highlight those two. And so we're going to go into the next three and four. So there's new approaches to employee engagement and retention. So retention today requires personal customization and personalized experience. So we have to work smarter when it comes to engaging strategies. Um, and even on a deeper level, some things just can't be company wide. We have to take a step back and maybe look at the department, or this group of people need to do these engagement strategies to foster themselves. And so taking a step back and really, like, how do we personalize and customize the way we are engaging and retaining a group of people, and really making data driven decisions, right? um, Even when it comes to the hybrid and remote strategy, we want to do it to prevent burnout, not just offer flexibility. So really going back to that root cause of why we're doing. So we're seeing a trend in like just like new approaches altogether. And then of course the well-being, the purpose of the growth, and keep employees committed to their job. And then always the last trend that we're really seeing is the revolving role of HR and business strategy. HR is no longer just about policies. It's a true driver in business innovation and changes. So we're seeing HR leaders shape strategy by aligning talent with business goals. That's the thing. So we're in those meetings, those future projection meetings and all of that, and making sure that we have the talent to execute on the goals that our CEOs and C suites are making. Again, making data driven decisions to help the workforce planning and performance. And here is the a big trend for 2025 is being agile is key. HR has to anticipate change, not react to it. I have to say that louder for the people in the back. We have to be able to adjust and see things and anticipate what's happening. For so long, again, I've been in HR for 15 years, and it has been that when something happens, then we react. Something happens, and then we make a policy, and that person knows, like, oh, this is the miracle policy because now we got a remote policy. But we have to kind of look at these trends and really see where things are going and anticipate what's going to happen in the future. So those are the four trends that we are seeing that is shaping 2025. And so, like I said, if we get ahead of this now, you will be ahead of the game. And why? Because we're looking at the numbers, we're looking at the data. So Hope, take it away.
Okay, so we're going to do a quick poll here. Which trend that Miracle just went over do you think will have the biggest impact on your organization? So you can just take your smartphone and put it up to the QR code and enter in which of those four trends that Miracle just went over. Which one of those do you feel like will have the biggest impact on your organization? I'll give you time to do that. And as you do that, I'll kind of talk through that. So when we're thinking about these trends, Rome wasn't built in a day. So we don't have to do them all, right? We don't have to have all of them, but we definitely need to have some type of strategy, some type of game plan. So the idea is that you're taking these trends to your leaders, to your HR reps. And if you are the leader, you're looking at how do I build some of this into my practices. So we need to do better with AI. Yep, AI. Okay, whoever's putting AI, you're right on target. That is probably the biggest, right? The biggest trend that's happening. And I also want us to start thinking differently about AI. We may have another webinar specifically on AI and how to use it ethically, but not be afraid of it. We cannot be afraid of our future, or we'll just be living in the past. All right. All right. You can still drop it in there. As long as you have that QR code. So we'll move on. So let's talk about the workforce equity strategies post DEI. So I do want people to put it in the comments. How impacted are you by DEI? I know a lot of small, mid-sized companies may not be struggling with the DEI initiative, with the changing landscape of the laws, but some element of your business had it. For all of us. I mean, if you ever did an application and you put that EEO statement down, then you were essentially following some DEI protocol. So we want to talk about, like, how do we do business now? DEI became a trend, and it never should have been. It is all about workplace equity. It's always been about us celebrating people based on merit, right? So let's go over a few of the trends that we're seeing now with the new administration's executive orders. And for those of you who don't watch the news, I'm guilty of it sometimes too, because it's overwhelming. But if you're not watching the news, the new administration has basically stated that they don't want, DEI and the federal government. And this initiative has caused a lot of companies to stop their DEI focuses or their DEI practices, whether it was embedded in policies or it was just a part of, how they did business. They've removed it. They've pretty much said that they're walking away from it. And I want us to be careful as business owners, as leaders, and we'll talk about values as we talk about culture later, but we have to know why we're doing the business that we're doing. If we believe in diversity, if we believe in equity, and we believe in inclusion, no matter what's going on in the legal landscape, then that's just kind of what we believe, and that's what we build our companies over. So let's go through some practical things we can do as managers when it comes to that first one, navigating the changing legal landscape. So it's really about conducting audits on your current hiring and promotion policies. You want to make sure that they do align with what the new regulation is saying. And the reason I'm saying this is because in some cases, again, these are still developing policies, but we may face a situation where something becomes illegal. So we're going to have to be constantly reviewing just to make sure we're listening to what the legal landscape is saying, and we are actually responding to it. Focusing on standardizing those hiring processes. So you want structured interview techniques. You want, blind resume screenings. And we want to start making decisions if we weren't before. And I am a proponent of this. You need to be making decisions based on skills and qualifications. It shouldn't be based on race. Even on the opposite end, okay, I'm going to hire this person because of their race. No, we should be hiring people because they're qualified. They have the skill set to help us reach our mission in our business. And then when it comes to the equal opportunity preference, we just need to have inclusive job descriptions. They need to just be unbiased. I don't think we need a DEI initiative to be a human. I just want you to be a human. It has to be fair. People have to have access to opportunities. It is not it is not even in a good, from a business perspective, it's not even smart to say I only want a certain look of person or a certain talent. When we're running a business, we need all the talents to be able to get us where we're going. So that second one, so we're moving from DEI to merit-based inclusion, and that's been the initiative of the current administration. So what does that actually mean, and how do we put that in practice? It's really just focusing on skill-based hiring. Literally skill-based hiring, let's put a pin in it. And that means we are assessing. We may have more assessments. I remember years ago, because I'm not even going to date myself.
Go ahead.
Years ago, we used to take extensive tests to get on jobs. It, like, literally customer service jobs. We needed to take the math exams. We needed to do all of these things.
I
You remember that?
Yes.
So we might have to go back to competency assessments again,
Mhm.
which again isn't a bad thing because
Mhm.
it says that this person is qualified to do the job. I've already mentioned those interview structures, right? We need to be having those interviews that are structured. Like we're looking at the criteria that we need. We are clear about it, and we are making data-based decisions, as Miracle said earlier, to help us even bring people into the organization. Another one is mentorship and leadership development. Now, I can't say this enough. If we're going from, if we're going from, maybe some companies only hired based on, diversity or equity, they were looking at those little pockets. If we're strictly going based on skills, people have to be trained. You're not going to get everything externally, right? Internally, there's people in your organization right now with the right type of development, they can be key employees for you. And imagine a team with like 80% of key employees, meaning they do their job exceptionally. That can actually happen with professional development, right? So we need to focus on that. If we're going to skill based hiring, then we not only need to look for that externally, internally, we need to be increasing skills. Does that make sense? That
Mhm.
makes sense, right? Like you have to increase the skills. I hate when we go places, when you like when you open up a bank account and you've been having your bank account forever, but then they have these specials where you can get a bank account for $0. You don't even have to pay the fee. We're waiving the fee. Why do the new people get all the good stuff?
Always.
I've been with you all this time. Anyway, I digress. We need to focus on building our teams internally as well. And
I
that,
would love to add a statistic.
yes,
So, companies with a strong learning culture are 7 times more likely to have a healthy work environment.
see,
So, there is data that even aligns and supports this trend.
yeah, yeah. So look for, and how do you do this? If you're asking the how, you look for different programs, different learning management softwares, different things you can put your employees in to increase that. But before you do that, you have to have conversations with them, right? You have to understand their career path and where they want to go. But we'll get into that, I believe, a little later in the culture. So when it comes to building inclusive workplaces without the traditional DEI programs, one suggestion that leaders can do, and I know you've heard of ERGs, but maybe kind of shifting the narrative a little bit on it, where it's like voluntary employee resource groups that allow employees to come together on shared professional interests and experiences. That's a different lens on ERG. And I'm sure some companies are already doing it. They're probably ahead of the game on this, but you don't have to completely get rid of ERGs. It's just, they just need to feel different and they need to look different.
Mhm.
Um, Engagement through shared values. So really reinforcing your company values. I mean, if you have a company value of respect and collaboration and teamwork and fairness, then what's happening in the administration shouldn't affect you, right? Because you should be having policies and procedures that automatically support your company values. And we all know when we started these companies, we have values, or your leaders had values. They have a vision for the organization. So we need to be building practices and procedures that support that vision. Am I going too fast? Because I want to be mindful of your time, but I feel like I am talking a little fast, trying to get through a lot.
I mean, that was a good point. So, yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. And let's go to really quick shifting from compliance to culture transformation. As far as me and Miracle are concerned, culture is the answer. Like we get calls and we're like, how's your culture? Because your culture generally represents everything from procedures to policies to whether you're investing in training, everything, right? It's the culture that nurtures that. So really shifting from let's check the box, let's make sure everything is done so that we can pass this audit, so we can pass this, instead of having that, let's just go beyond that. Let's really focus on creating intentional culture that's replacing not replacing compliance, because compliance is super important. However,
Mhm.
I just don't want the focus to just be on compliance, right? If we're focused on respect, fairness, collaboration, and all those things, then naturally compliance will happen, because we still have to train. We just talked about that. So when all these things are working together, you'll be a more well-rounded organization. And then that's a strategy for what's to come in the future. Also focusing on like a feedback driven culture. So oftentimes as leaders, we believe that we know it all. We don't. It's the people that are on the front lines, it's the people that are doing the job. So the more you can get feedback, that becomes your superpower. Essentially, you are actually doing things, you're establishing employee feedback, you're doing those engagement surveys, you're doing those one-on-one coaching, you're assessing the workplace for fairness and inclusion, and you're hearing directly from the people that make it work. That's how you do culture transformation in your organization. So if you have any, I can't see the comments or anything, Miracle. If there are any, please just throw them out. Again, this is interactive, so I'd like to hear from you real time if possible. So let's
We
just go
do have a comment, but I'm sure it was when I was talking. Miss Carter, thank you for your comment. She's saying that source from a company that places those ethics in their AI software.
with.
So again, we need the human touch, of course, and then having those sources that talk about ethical AI software as well in it. So thank you for that comment.
No, it's good. Thank you. Thank you. So let's highlight some key takeaways really quickly. So maintaining legal compliance while we're fostering inclusive cultures and performance, transparency, and respect in our cultures. Prioritizing leadership development. It does ensure that it's an equitable career growth opportunity for your external and your internal employees. I'll tell you this, candidates, I'll tell you this, that's a great recruiting strategy too, to say, hey, we offer mentorship or we offer leadership development. Most people really, really want, especially the newer generation, they really want to be invested in. So just using that as a recruiting strategy would be great too. Leveraging those unbiased hiring and promotion practices. So really focusing on sustaining a workforce that's diverse, even if it's not explicitly said, it's happening in your culture. And just encouraging everybody to be more in line with the company values.
Mhm.
So we'll do a poll on this. How is your organization adjusting its equity initiatives post DEI regulations? So I'll give you some time to go through that. How is that happening? Is your company doing this? Is your company even affected by it? I think that's a really good one. Is your company even affected by it, DEI regulations? Or you're like, hey, we're fine. We're not impacted at all. Planning and waiting for more information. Okay. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're definitely all waiting. We don't have it all figured out, but very good. Very good. I can't see. Is there anyone else? Oh, someone else is typing. There we go. My program was shut down. Okay. Yeah, good info. Need to do this. Okay. And we're holding our hope, right, for those programs that were affected. Hopefully we can pivot. There'll be other opportunities that we could possibly take advantage of, but thank you so much for sharing. Thank you. All right, so now let's move to best practices for a thriving workplace culture. Now, this is going to be hard to just hit, but I'm going to do it because I'm going to be respectful of your time. But I literally can spend hours talking about how to build a thriving workplace culture. So the first thing is we need to focus on building high trust, high performance culture. So if you've ever been a part of a merger and acquisition, I'll give you statistics for it. Anybody who's gone through a merger or an acquisition, or even a major change within their organization, it could even look like, hey, we're implementing Workday. The
Mhm.
issue, like literally, we're into it, or ADP or any software implementation, you probably know that is a major disruption that generally affects more than 1 to 2 departments. So the reason it fails, a lot of these initiatives, is because of people. People aren't feeling valued, people aren't feeling heard, communication, there's no source of truth. It just becomes a disaster. And the reason it's so impactful is because it's literally changing the atmosphere, it's changing the culture of your organization. It went from a really good culture, and now we're doing this implementation, and I hate it here.
Mhm.
So, really building trust and really focusing on performance. It goes back to what I was saying about talking to those folks that are, boots on the ground. So, if you're about to implement something, if you're about to do something super, disruptive to your organization, you have to be able to build trust. So a culture that fosters engagement, productivity, and innovation, those organizations generally offer open communication. So that does look like feedback, that does look like asking the right questions, and it creates psychological safety. When people feel safe psychologically, you
Mhm.
generally can get most things from them. And I've heard it all. I've heard it all. We have a star employee that we brought in, a candidate that we brought in. They are like amazing. They have the skill based, right? They have all the skills, they have everything that they need. 6 months in, we don't even recognize them. We're like, what's going on? We're doing a check-in, and they're like, I don't think I can even do this job anymore because they've been beat down so much. So we
Mhm.
have to focus on a culture of trust. People have to feel psychologically safe in your care. So clear communication and transparency. How do you do this? What's some practical things you can do? Whole town hall meetings. Just, hey, what's going on? How do you feel about what's going on in the legal landscape? Like, just like leaders are hearing it, your employees are hearing it too. They're nervous, they're afraid, they're scared. Talk to them. Do Q&A sessions. Maybe you do it departmentally. Like, how does everybody feel? Here's what's going on with the business. Yes, this affected the business, what came down from the new administration, or what's going on in the economic landscape, or no, it didn't. And there won't be any changes. But that transparency is going to be key going forward for 2025 and honestly beyond. I just believe the landscape, employees are different now.
Yeah.
So you're going to use those types of conversations to then inform your decision making, and watch how your organization begins to trust you as a leader. When you start making decisions, even if they're not the decisions or the comments or the feedback that they've given, the fact that you've even considered it, that you took the time to speak with them, is going to be super important. I need managers in this season, as we go forward, to become active listeners. Be empathetic in your communication. And I know you are juggling so much. I understand that. But I do believe leadership is a calling. So if we are struggling with this outside of getting more training to help develop this, if we fundamentally don't believe we should be doing this, then we might want to think about whether or not we want to be leaders, because this is what has to happen for the next years to come. Things are different. The next thing is aligning your company values with the employee experience. The worst thing you can do is have like this long statement about how you care about work-life balance on your website, and people can't take vacations.
Ooh.
Like, I came to this job because you said work life balance was the thing, right? You have to be, what you are doing actively have to reflect your company values. They just have to. So I want you to start looking at your policies. Look at what the statement that you did. I'm sure it was an amazing statement, right? But how
Mhm.
are we living it out in our organization? So making sure you're embedding those values in your hiring processes, your onboarding processes, your performance management. We want to encourage leaders to have those values to be active. It has to be action and not just words. And it starts with your leaders. Whatever's on that website, leaders, you have to, or whatever's being said in those meetings, if you're not sure about the vision, you need to be asking, what is the vision of this organization? What are the values? What do we stand for? So that I can make sure I'm showing up in that and that employees are feeling that. Again, are there anything in the chat? Do I need to stop?
No, you're doing great.
Good. Okay. I'm sorry, guys. I can't see you all, so just bear with me. We'll jump to effective culture building initiatives for remote and hybrid teams. So, this is a trend that we've had for a long time.
Mhm.
It may or may not be changing, guys. Even in this being a trend, we are getting more demands for employees to come back to work, like come back on site. Now, I realize some jobs were automatically remote even before COVID and all of that, took place, but we have to make sure for those remote and hybrid workers that we're creating virtual environments where they can grow. Okay, so we need to be intentional about organizing virtual coffee chats, team building games, knowledge sharing sessions, and really, I wouldn't say have a necessarily a specific mentorship program for them, but they need to be mentored a little differently than the folks that are coming in person, because they need strengthening of relationships because they don't have the same interaction as someone who's in the office with you. So really thinking about, like, how do we get our virtual employees tapped in more, where they don't feel like they're just, you know clocking in and clocking out, and they're not really a part of a team. Because, and
You
why is this important? I feel like I can hear that in people's mind. Why is that even important? They're getting they have a job, Hope. Why are you talking to me about this? I'm paying them good, all of that. We want their innovation. We won't get that if they don't feel connected. They don't truly feel connected. We want to hear from them. We truly want their opinion. We don't want robots. Isn't that what we're all saying anyway?
know, right? Everybody robots. We do have a question. I would love to get your opinion on this, Hope. Do you think people are being hired that can't perform the job because there has been more networking versus vetting?
Do I think people are being hired that can't do the job? So they were just hired because we like them? Is that
Yeah.
what the question is?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of that. To be honest, I wouldn't say that I haven't done the research on it to say hard yes, but to that point, that happens a lot. That happens a lot. That's why I'm really not mad at skill-based hiring. I'm
Mhm.
really not mad at that, because we shouldn't be hiring people just because we get along with them.
Mm-mm.
That's just called a friend. Like, I get along with you, great, but that doesn't mean you can do the job. And so in the regard of, does that happen? Man, that happens a lot. I just don't know how much. And I also think people are desperate to get butts in seats, as we would say. And butts in seats look like, I just need someone to do this. I can train them, but sometimes it's not that easy. So I think it's a combination of some of that. Miracle, what do you think?
That I agree with the statement, and something that I've said and Hope said in the past. We hire based on oh, what do we say? Hire based on
Well,
character,
oh,
hire based on perform no
yeah, you hire based on character, you fire based on content.
content, yes. So I think yes, people are being hired because they like them, and they see them as friends. I have saw it. I have really saw managers hire another manager because they want to go grab a beer with them. But what happens within 3 to 6 months is you then find out that this person maybe didn't have the competencies to fulfill the job. And so what did we do? Waste all that money,
Yeah.
all that time, and overlook some really qualified candidates because you were bringing in your bias. So I think that just is a deeper meaning of what is our hiring practices for those managers. Are we asking the right questions? Like, that's where my mind going, like, yes, that's happening, but there's so many root causes that is doing that. So I do think it is happening, yes, because we are at work 8 hours a day. So who don't want to work BFF?
Yeah.
But we need to get the job done. And so yeah, it is definitely happening, and we want to make sure that what culture are we creating. And so that's why it's so good for HR professionals to be thinking about this and seeing like this is the trend that's happening. Now I need to go talk to my managers and figure out what's the breakdown. We can't no longer just wait until that person doesn't work out and then go through the offboarding process. Once you get a couple of those, it's a practice that's reoccurring. So let's go back to the root, which is the culture, not the just implementing the offboarding because it didn't work out. So look at those trends, why people are leaving, why are they getting fired. We got to make those data-based decisions. Good question, Miss Carter. Thank you.
Great question. Okay, that last one, let's touch that really quickly. Measuring. So after we've done all of this, right, we focused on these high performance teams and this culture of trust and transparency. And then we said, oh, we want our employee experience to also match what we have on that website. It's no longer words. Now it's being lived out in action. And then we are also not just focused on the people in the office, we're focusing on those remote and hybrid teams as well. Then we have to really, to Miracle's point, great segue, we have to look at data. We have to understand, okay, what is the number saying? In order to do that, we need engagement surveys, we need feedback loops, we need one-on-one coaching, all of that data. Let's pull this together. What are people saying? And then we need to make changes. We need to adjust. Some cases, it'll be great. I know managers do not like 360-degree feedback sessions. I understand. No one wants to hear they're not doing well.
No
And your employees are afraid to tell you that you're not doing well because you're not doing well. Hear what I'm saying? No one wants to hear that they're not doing well. Their employees are afraid to tell them, you know why? Because they're not doing well.
Mm.
So you have to create an environment that no matter what, I want to hear from you. Your employee's job ultimately is to make your job easier. If we have that mindset, then I do want to hear from you. I actually do want to hear from you. I want to know what I can do better so that you can work better. Who wants to go to work and fight? I don't. I don't want to go to work and fight.
Mm-mm.
So in establishing, and it's brave to be open to say that. And I'm not saying it's not going to feel hurtful. You're a human, of course. You know, some things, and especially if you don't believe it to be true, you're like, okay. And if it's not true, let's reverse engineer this and see how we can get to a place where we are able to work better together, because I don't believe that's true, right? Let's get down to the root of that. But that only happens if you're receiving feedback and you're open to actually receiving that. And really taking the feedback and implementing it. So I want us to really focus on making data-based decisions. Why am I making this decision? Why am I implementing this policy? If Miracle is the only one that's saying she wants free lunch on Friday, I probably won't do it. But if 70% of the team is saying it, then I probably need to do it because their morale means something. And if we can financially do it, maybe it's not every Friday, maybe it's once a month, but I'm gonna hear them and make the adjustment, right? So those are the types of decisions that we need to be making going forward. Okay, our last poll question: which workplace culture challenge is most pressing for your organization right now? So we talked about the culture, the high performance, high trust cultures. We've talked about, let me go back real quick. I hope you guys are getting, oh, okay. I think y'all got it. Y'all got it. Because someone's typing. We talked about the metrics. We talked about how to hire them, how to bring them into the organization. It should be skill-based. Trust. Yep, that's a tricky one. That's a tricky one. And we do know trust is earned. So we have to get to a point in our organizations. How do we earn the trust? Leadership and accountability. Very good. Very good. Both of these, leadership and accountability and trust, can both be something you build in your organization. It is not impossible to build any of that. It's going to be intentionality. You definitely have to be intentional about it. High trust, yeah, the political climate, yep. Workplace morale. So if you were to ask, okay, Hope, how do we fix this? Culture is the answer. Culture is the answer. It just is. We have to be intentional about it. And if I were you, these are just quick tips because we don't have time to unpack how we can um, tackle these. But for each of these, whoever put that in there, give me the reverse behavior that you want to see. So if it's leadership and accountability, how do you see your leadership how do you see your leadership become more accountable? Write down those behaviors. If you are the leader yourself, and these are your peers, this is a really great group conversation. Hey, here are some things I think we can do to become more accountable. It's going to start from the top, though. It's going to start from the top. So, workplace culture workshops and trainings are going to be key for all of these. Okay, that's the end. I want you to put your questions in the comments. We technically have 15 minutes. We still have 15 minutes. We did good for time. I was a little nervous about our time. But put your questions in the comments. And if even later, if you come back and you think about something, you can put them in the comments or ping us. But I do want you to follow our LinkedIn group. Miracle, if you could put the group or join our LinkedIn group, if you could put the group in the chat, that would be great. That link. We'll have special webinars just for you. We'll do polls, we'll get feedback, we'll see what you want to talk about, and we'll have certain sessions that are just for you. We'll be doing some trainings and some small mini micro sessions coming up for workplace culture that may or may not be free of charge. Just really depends on how big your group is. But if it's just a few people, we're willing to do those virtually for you. But our goal here at Vo is really to create intentional workplaces where we can avoid the issues that we've been going through historically. No one's focusing on culture, they're just focusing on policies and procedures. So we're changing how we do HR. Any final questions?
Well, we just have a comment. Ms. Carter said, thank you, many applications. Thank you for joining. And I do have the link to join our group, of course, in the chat. And one of our initiatives or trends for 2025 is to really not only help organizations, but really partner with HR leaders. And so if you want to reach out, of course, and be a partner with us. You want to think through some things, think about initiatives. Of course, that is a service that we offer as well. So we would love to really make sure HR is being strategic, because we know that you are reactive. You probably got a call during this webinar right now because somebody did something crazy, but we get to help you and guide your, even just offer solutions that we've seen with other companies that really work. And so reach out to us. We want to help you, even in your HR C-suite people, just really be a thought leader with you guys. So again, thank you so much for your time joining us. And if you want to have more webinars or different subjects, or just going into a deeper dive on trust, let's shoot us a message and we will do that for you. So happy Friday and enjoy the rest of your time. Bye.
Bye. Have a good one.